An Unforgettable Christmas Eve. Tomorrow will be Christmas. This evening in my country, many young people will celebrate by going to riotous dancing parties. Many large hotels will prepare lavish Christmas dinners for those well off. In Europe and the United States, the owners of large department stores will definitely be examining the sales figures for these few days. If the situation of Christmas sales at department stores is not ideal, not only will the businessmen not be happy, but even ministers of commerce will be depressed when they take their Christmas vacation, because it will augur that the economy is not healthy. For devout Christians, Christmas, of course, is related to a religious celebration. This evening, many churches will pour forth beautiful hymns. Priests and ministers will preach to the faithful. For the majority of people, Christmas makes them think of sparkling Christmas trees, of Christmas cards, those typical ones with snow filling the earth and lovely little cottages, of Christmas carols, and of solemn religious ceremonies in church. The first year I was in the United States, I was going to the house of a relative of mine in Southern California for Christmas Eve. I didn't have a car. At that time, I couldn't even afford to go by train, let alone by airplane. So I had to select an inexpensive Greyhound bus. Around 7 o'clock in the evening, the Greyhound bus entered an average-sized city, and all the riders got off for a rest, taking the opportunity to have supper. There was a restaurant in the bus stop, which was open even though it was Christmas Eve. This probably was the only restaurant open in the neighborhood, so business was good and nearly all the tables were taken. After we sat down, I saw an elderly woman eating next to us who was very old and whose hands were shaking. It was only with much difficulty that she could eat the soup, for foreigners cannot drink from the bowl when eating soup. They must use a soup spoon to put the soup into their mouth. This elderly woman was not able to eat the soup because of her hand shaking. There was a good-hearted waitress who, while she was waiting on many other customers, would still find time now and then to come help by putting the soup in the elderly woman's mouth. But because she was very busy, her ability to help was limited. Many of the young passengers on the Greyhound bus were probably poor college students like myself. One young man sat next to the elderly woman and fed her the soup as well as cut up food for her. For the entire meal, he sat by her side and was at her service. The elderly woman did not have much of an appetite, so most of the food was actually eaten by this young person. It seemed as if the elderly woman didn't say a single word to the young person, but she would occasionally touch lightly his hand to show her appreciation. The waitress told us that the elderly woman each year came to enjoy a proper meal on Christmas Eve. There was always a taxi driver who went to get her, and the store manager gave her the meal almost free of charge. She only had to pay a symbolic amount of money. After the meal, there was another taxi driver who would drive her home. After the elderly woman had her last course, the dessert, she would solemnly place some money on the table. A waiter would help her put on her coat, and another worker from the restaurant would open the door for her and slightly bow towards her. With the engine of the taxi already started, the driver would open the taxi door for her and help her in. What was interesting was that these waiters and the restaurant manager were not Christians. They were Jews who do not observe Christmas. They were the ones working on Christmas Eve so that the Christian workers could have the night off. One year, it was again Christmas Eve, and I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City for Mass, which was broadcast throughout the country. It was extraordinary. The carols were sung most beautifully, and the church was decorated exquisitely. What I discovered, however, was that no one greeted each other, and what made me even sadder was that in the subway nearby, homeless men were everywhere. Everyone likes to celebrate Christmas, but very few people think of the real meaning of Christmas. Jesus Christ was born for us and hopes that we will all love each other. But we already have a set way to celebrate Christmas: sending Christmas cards, eating our Christmas dinner, going to church, and singing Christmas carols. But are these actions able to make people of the world feel love and concern? Are these the best way to remember the birth of Jesus Christ? I often think of those waitresses and waiters in the little city in Southern California. They said, "We are not Christians, so we do not celebrate Christmas." But they allowed that elderly woman to experience unlimited warmth. If we could ask the faithful who go to church on Christmas Eve why they do, they would definitely say, "We are Christians, so we want to celebrate Christmas." But the question is it meaningful enough to celebrate Christmas by just going to church? It might be that those Jews, when they took care of that elderly lady, were really celebrating the Christmas loved by Jesus.